timing of this stream is maybe a little wonky. And again, allergies this morning, not good. So apologies for that. And yeah, apologies for the timing. When I scheduled the live stream, I meant to schedule it starting at 9:30 a.m. For some reason, I scheduled it for starting at 10:30 a.m. And then I went to start it and I realized the mistake and I wasn't quite ready. So now we're actually starting it now. It's 9:45 almost. Anyway, so starting later than planned, but earlier than what was actually scheduled. If so, understandably, if you guys already saw the link ahead of time and you were planning on watching, hopefully you didn't go too far from the computer or anything like that, and you're not thinking that it's going to be starting 45 minutes from now. But anyway, we'll go ahead and get into it. Hopefully there's no mishaps with all that stuff. And just as always, guys, good morning. And just a quick, not really update, but just announcement, I guess, before we get started. And I'll mention this again towards the end for anyone who comes in later on. But we'll have an episode of Someone No Trend with Josh and I tomorrow. It's about the same time, starting about the same time tomorrow morning. And no special guest this time. It'll be just the two of us, but we got a cool hashtag that we're going to be going through with you guys tomorrow. So looking forward to that as well. So as always, guys, I just want to start off by saying thank you to all of my Patreon supporters for their support, of course. I'm going to be taking a look at some works here by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different supporters here today for the critique episode. So just if you guys are interested in submitting works for any future critique episodes, or just in general, just becoming a Patreon supporter, you can see what other rewards there, what few rewards there are. There's not that much, but there's there. And of course, just the satisfaction of supporting me if you like the work that I do. But you can just find me on Patreon. This is Zaku Warrior there on Patreon. And there's more information about all of that there. So appreciate all of those guys who are there supporting me. And let's take a look here at Arbs. I'm going to go through them in alphabetical order today. Usually I go through them in order of when they submitted, but they're just here in alphabetical order, so we'll just do that like that today. So Arbs here submitted his Infinite Justice. And let's see. Is he here? I'm not sure if I saw him in the chat quite yet, but I think he was just moments ago talking in the Discord, I believe. So I think he should be around. So Arbs, shout out if you're watching live, so I can know if I have questions or something about the build. I can check back to the chat here. But let's also check his email, because if he mentioned anything about the build, his email, he said it's a MG Infinite Justice. Oh yeah, the Infinite Justice has been out for a while. I was gonna say, when did that come out? But that's the one that had been out for a long time, and then the Justice was the one that had just recently come out, or more recently come out. Anyway, he said it's a fairly simple build. I prefer to keep everything the same color as the original, but with a fair bit of extra detail. So it's the first time using plot plate. I was wondering about that. Looking at the design, it looked like there was a couple of places maybe where he added some plot plate. I think it turned out quite well. But you'll also be able to tell that I didn't cut them as cleanly as I should. My panel lining also could be a lot cleaner. So he did a little bit of panel lining to break up some of the details. So I think that's what we're seeing here, like on the front skirt there, adding this little bits of plot plate. I think that bit there on the side of the front skirt, like here on the front of the arm, I believe, and the shoulders there as well too. Just you can see a little bit of that where his work went into that. He said there's also a part that I just totally lost because it's so tiny. You can probably spot that pretty quickly. Let me see. At least just looking at the first photo here, I am not seeing any tiny missing part offhand. Nothing's jumping out at me, but we'll see. We'll see what we can see. He said he hasn't been able to find anything to replace it, and he's sorted out some other ways. Okay, and the backdrop. And figure out the backdrop lighting. I want to say that just the photography and the backdrop look good, as far as I can tell here, just from the first couple of photos. Just taking a look at these, the lighting the lighting seems probably the lighting is fine, but maybe you just need to adjust your camera settings a little bit. It looks a little bit dark and also inconsistent. So it looks like probably you're using whatever camera you're using for this is probably on auto. It looks like just based on the different color temperature variations we're seeing in here, and maybe this was I don't know, let me see here. Finish reading your email. I've also taken a short video with 360 spin. So he has a video here as well too. We can pull up. Let's see. Open a new window. And he didn't mention about what camera he's using, but let's see. Arbs, are you here in the chat? Let me just go back here. Looks like maybe not. But based on the varying color temperatures, it's either a camera that's just on auto or a phone camera. Phone cameras are usually on auto, especially for color temperatures like this. This is kind of the problem with trying to take pictures of your kits with your phone if you're just using like your kind of default camera app on your phone. There are camera apps where you can control the color temperature and things like that. There's some free ones, I believe, but usually the better ones usually cost a little bit. You have to pay for those. Let's see. I know there's one that I do use occasionally that if you have, let's see which one, I can't remember which one because I haven't used it for a while. But if you have like an Adobe account, like if you use Adobe Photoshop, whatever, then I think you can use the Lightroom app. Yeah, and you can control that. You have better camera control if if you're taking pictures through the Lightroom app on the phone, I believe, if I remember correctly. So just on the photography, yeah, I would say a little bit of post work. I would, if that's true that it's taken on auto, I would not recommend using auto. If you're able to, use manual settings, whatever camera using that would help. Also, yeah, if you're using this on a tripod and like this is the lighting, you can just do a longer exposure to get this brighter. It just looks a little bit darker than I would prefer. I mean, some of these like shadow areas are just kind of dark. You have some nice bright highlights here, like the white on the shoulder. So I don't know. I can see why probably on the histogram it probably looks okay, but yeah, it's a little bit dark. So you can either change that in post. You can go in Photoshop or whatever photo editing software you want to use afterwards and brighten up this a bit, adjusting the shadows and things like that a little bit. But you can also do that ahead of time just with the manual settings on your camera if possible. So let me then just go through these here. I'm not sure what the missing part is he's talking about. I did notice the decal here got a little bit messed up here on the front of the chest. That jumped out at me when we were taking a look at this close up. And other than that, let's just take a look at what he was talking about with the panel lining, the plot plating. When you look at it closely, you can see, honestly, the actual lining, I mean, I'd have to look at it, super closely, but just based on the photos, the panel lining, like the cleanliness of the panel lining doesn't look that bad. They just look a little bit too wide for my taste. So I'm not sure maybe what he's using, maybe 0.5 or something like that, or maybe even larger, like a 0.6. I'm not sure, but especially these panel lines are quite wide. And that's just all kind of a subjective thing. Just checking the chat again here. But it's just your personal preference. I personally don't really like the look of when the panel lines are that particularly wide on a kit. It gives a very different look. And so that said, the good thing about it is that kind of all the real noticeable lines are kind of that wide. If you had where like you have these wide ones and then you have some on a different part, you just have really thin ones, it would look a bit odd. But at least it's consistent that they're wide, kind of here on the forearm, here on the upper arm, here on the leg, and just kind of everywhere where you've got similar type of lines. They're all about the same general thickness. The addition of the plot plate, also, I think in general, like the size and shape of the plot plate is fine. From what I can tell, it just looks like a little bit thick. So this one again, it looks like I can't tell. Again, if I had to guess, it doesn't look like it's 1 millimeter. It's not that thick. I don't know, except maybe this part here on the front of the fire or something. It's probably 0.5. Maybe try to use something a little bit thinner for adding details like this, like here on the side of the knee. I believe that's an added bit there. And like on the front of the arm here on the front of the shoulder. You can use a thinner piece of plot plate probably in here on the top of the shoulder as well. If it's like 0.3 or something like that, probably better. Just so it's not quite so thick. Or what you can do is, of course, just sand that down some more. Sand those little bits down. Was the V-fin broken? It looks like I keep looking at this and wondering if the V-fin was broken and re-glued there. It looks like. Does the Gundam typically have a small little extra triangle? Excuse me, an extra little triangle piece there on the front of the head, or is it just the red bit there? Because there's a little bit of like something there on that front where it looks like maybe there was some glue or something there where there was another little piece in that, so it came off. Because you mentioned a piece that came off. Cody in the chat also mentioned using paint instead of plot plate. Yeah, for if you're just doing color separation, like here on the shoulder, just masking that, just painting a different color, rather than adding a different plot plate. But I mean, that again, it's just personal preference. Adding a plot plate also gives you a different depth of that armor too. So if that's what you want, of course, adding plot plate and then masking and painting, whatever, you can do like that as well. As for the painting in general, overall, it does look pretty smooth. There are a few bits where, especially on the white sections, or I'm not sure if it's the photograph or if the paint looks a little bit inconsistent here. Like here on the front skirts on these white parts. I'm not sure if that's just kind of a weird reflection we're getting there or something. But there's a little bit of that here on the front of this elbow joint too. It looks a bit weird. I'm trying to also see what that is. I think that's just kind of detail, but it looks like the paint's like a little bit thick. So I'm wondering how this was painted. The red parts look like there's like a bit of shading to that a little bit. So that looks like it's airbrush, but then like because the white paint on some of these parts looks a bit thick and this gunmetal paint looks a bit thick on there, I'm wondering if that's maybe spray can. Oh, Arbs is here. Okay. So you said the V-fin was indeed broken, and yeah, you wanted to add the depth. Okay. How are those? A couple of those parts, or just in general, maybe Arbs, can you tell us? I'm sorry, didn't mean to put you up on the screen there, Garrett. Can you tell us about how it was painted, Arbs? Because I'm wondering, some parts look airbrush and some parts look spray canned. Well, let's just go through. We haven't really taken a look at all the photos here, really, but just go through these. I'm guessing the is that how the original parts look, or are these painted the original effect parts? They have that kind of looks like they have a bit of that kind of sparkly effect in that Bandai sometimes does. But I mean, are they originally orange, or did you paint them in orange? Just see here. Otherwise, I mean, just in general, I mean, the surfaces look pretty clean. And this looks, I believe I'm seeing this correctly, that there's two different colors here on the chest. The main part looks just like flat black, normal, like just like normal, like flat black or something. And then like this other part of the torso looks in a kind of metallic black kind of color, right? Okay, so he said he didn't touch the effect parts. He said the plot plates were painted silvery white, whereas the white parts are just top coated. Okay, let me see here. Okay, so you mean the white parts, like the white parts that were originally white on the kit, were not painted white. You just left them white and you just top coated them. Is that right? Yeah, I think it was with Jim, uh, Gunpla Fixation, who we've had this conversation before, of people doing that, where we have like white parts, and usually now if it's like the whole kit's white, then maybe not. But if it's just like detailed parts like that, or maybe even less than this, where you just have a few little white bits or something like that, is there really a point to painting them white if you're not planning on doing any like pre-shading or anything like that? You're just having them just be solid white. Is there really a point to repainting them white, or is it okay to just leave them white? And then just with your top coat and everything, it'll just match, and you won't really be able to notice that it's painted or not, really. So I don't know. It's a kind of, I don't know, I guess modeling. I don't know. It's not like moral question. It's not like that. Not moral, but anyway, you guys know what I mean. Just kind of a personal decision whether you want to do that or not. I think, like, yeah, you can't really tell usually. I mean, only if you have like what he was talking about here, where he did paint some of these sections of white. So like here, you can notice a difference. This part here, which is just the white part with top coat on it, and this, which is the painted kind of silvery white, as he said, you can tell that it's two different colors white. So in that case, you will be able to notice. But if you didn't have any of like the painted white and it was all just the top coated white, yeah, you really probably wouldn't be able to notice on the finished kit, at least straight away. I mean, only if you looked at it really super carefully and closely would you ever be able to notice that it was not actually painted. I take a look at Josh's GBWC entry. It's kind of a joke that I often tease him about, his GBWC entry not being painted, his Shinanju. And I mean, it looks very convincing despite not being painted. So yeah, you can certainly pass it by like that. It looks like yeah, the silvery white is more noticeable here on the backpack. It looks like those parts definitely have a little bit of silver to it, and maybe a little bit more sanding here. It looks like a little bit of kind of nub on that part there on the backpack behind the shoulder there. But it's kind of hidden. It's not really the location of that's maybe not very noticeable here on the back, but I just need to make sure that that's all sanded well. Is kind of a small thing, but I've talked about this before in different videos about painting the inside of different parts, like here, the inside of the shoulder armor. Again, it's a small thing that's not going to be very noticeable, but when you take pictures from certain angles, you will see up inside of the shoulder armor there. So if you can, just go ahead and hit that with some dark gray or even black or something if you want to go super dark, just on the inside of that armor bit there on the shoulder, just to add some more depth to that as well. If you really wanted into this little section here, painting that a little bit, just hand painting that in. I noticed on one picture it looked like, let's see, I can't really see it well in that picture. Let's go to the first one. It looks like maybe you missed panel lining a little bit here on this little bit here on the side skirt. So maybe just go back and touch that up a little bit. But in general, the colors and just the added separation, I think, looks good. The two-tone of red looks nice there because they're not super stark. They're not that different. It's just a little bit of color difference there. It looks quite nice there, where you can see that there on the front skirts and here on the front of the forearms as well too. So that tonal difference looks good. The metal detail parts here added, like these metal pins there on the shoulder. On the shoulders look nice there. I like that. I'm not as big of a fan of them here on the front of the thighs. It just being symmetrical on this thigh part there, I don't like it quite as much as up here, like on this asymmetrical part of the shoulder there. I just mean this particular piece being an asymmetrical piece. So if you did want to add any more of those anywhere on the kit, I mean, I don't know, maybe like one here on the front skirt as well too. like here, or even like here, maybe not quite so in the middle of the part, it's a little bit kind of off to the side, something like here on the front skirt, something like that. But again, just personal preference here. So yeah, Arbs, thank you for that submission. Other than the one decal on the front of the chest that looked a little bit silvered, the other ones mostly look pretty okay. You can kind of see them a little bit silvered here on the backpack as well too. So those, I think, what was it, in my Messer work in progress video, I talked about how I usually go about curing any silvering by just poking it with a knife and then just hitting it with some mark softer, something on there. And that's, I find, to be pretty helpful. Is the backpack also not painted? The red parts? Now that I'm looking at it, it looks like the red parts are also not painted. It looked like, but the red parts on the front are painted though, right? Or are they not also? Are you sneaking one by me with all the red bits not being painted? No, they look like they are on the front. It's just that the backpack looks like it's not. Right? Or am I dumb? That all looks painted. You can see a little bit of silvering here on this decal there, the top of the shoulder as well. But Arbs, come clean with us here. Is the red painted or not? No, I'm tripping out. Let's go back to the back picture here. Right? Because if you look closely, you can kind of see a little bit of like where the nub mark was on that part here, which if this is painted, it would be covered up, and like a little bit on these parts here too. You can kind of see that tiny little bit of where the nub mark was sanded away. Yep, the backpack wasn't painted, just top coated. Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, to not be able to notice that, or at least it didn't jump out at me from the front, you matched the color pretty well there, so good job on that. But yeah, I mean, if it's on the back and it's not really going to be, if you're just looking at the kit from the front, you're not going to see a whole lot of that backpack. So I feel ya. Also, I mean, just the dark metallic gunmetal color for the frame does look quite nice. As you guys know, I almost never do that for my kits. Painting the frame actually gunmetal or whatever, kind of any kind of metallic color, because usually I don't really like it for my builds, but it looks good here with the red colors. All right, let's go next to yeah, he did have his little video. We'll just we'll take a look at the video here shortly as well too. Just to mute that so you can just get a look around this here. Can I increase the speed of this a little bit? There you go. The pictures are nice because I can zoom in and stuff, and all, but this at least gives us the lighting. I mean, with it moving around through the lighting, you can kind of know what was a lighting, like a weird reflection or something like that. The bits of silver around the vents are nice on the backpack. Oh, here's a closer up shot. That's nice. The bits of silver are cool. I like that as well too. Just a few there on the big vents on the backpack, and then on the sides of the legs there as well too. It's not really much anywhere else on like the top half of the body where you could have added that silver really is there. So just having that on those parts here on the top and bottom of the backpack wings there. You can see too on like the silver part of the wings, you can see some sinks in the plastic. That would also be something that can be cured ahead of time by just making sure everything's sanded really well. So especially because that part is painted in silver, those sinks are going to show up really bright and obviously when you look at them, you know, with the light, with the right lighting angle. So that's why, especially on shiny parts like that, you need to make sure you sand really well. On the matte parts, it's not going to be as noticeable. It's going to be pretty hard to see. But But on these, you can see like up on the silver parts there on the top, you can see a little bit of sync there on the side, and then on these parts down here. So just need to be careful with that. But there you go. Yeah, it looks nice. Watch it in 4K. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry to miss that message. He had it in 4K. But let me see. Let me just pull that back up here again. It has 4K, huh? Okay. And the other reason that I just wanted to pull this up again was just to show you guys his channel. If you guys want to check out the video for yourselves, it's just Arbs there. So here it is in 4K. But you know, having the video at a small size, it's kind of hard to really notice much of a difference, and it's buffering a lot here. It's probably slowing down the connection quite a bit. So not to mess with the stream too much, I'll just close that for now. But you guys can check that out if you want to take a look at it in closer detail. Let's go ahead and open up the next ones here, which, hang on. Open with, yes. The next ones here, which are from Mayo. Mayo, I'm not sure if Mayo is watching live here or not. Mayo, give us a shout if you're watching live. He sent a bunch of photos of a few different kits, so we'll kind of go through these here. Adjust this. So the first one here, obviously the perfect grade Gundam Mark II, as you can read there at the top. So we got a couple of photos of this. 1, 2, I think we had 4 photos of this kit. So first of all, with it being a perfect grade, it's cool that he took advantage of all the interior detail by having a kind of like half armor on, half armor off, without any sort of like base or something. It still looks cool, but I think it would look really nice if you had this on a base or some kind of mechanical hanger. With it being a perfect grade, it's quite large, so you would need quite a big set of hanger parts to kind of fit around this, understandably. So that would be a little bit kind of complicated, I guess. But just to have the half armor off look, you know, and the maintenance workers, it looks like it's getting kind of some maintenance work done or something, whatever. Having it in a hanger bay would look pretty cool. The colors look pretty nice. There's some interesting colors. The blue looks like kind of metallic blue, and the V-fin especially is really interesting. It's got a kind of gradient fade here, with like this red to orange kind of gradient. There is something quite unique. I'm not sure I've ever really seen much of that before. And the white looks kind of pure white, and I don't remember how much this kit is panel lined straight out the box, but it looks like there's a lot of custom panel lining done on this as far as I can tell. All the lines I don't think are that, I think this kit doesn't have that much in the way of panel lines on it like that, so these are probably all added for that extra bit of color separation. The secondary color is nice, and I think it looks best here on the shoulder, just having the little bits of that cream color. Here on the front skirt, I would have just gone with one section of that cream color, maybe just this little one here at the top, and not 2 sections of cream with the white in the middle. I think just having just a little bit of that probably looks best. On the side skirt, having this larger section of cream I think looks fine, because it's on the side, it's not like right up in front. But this lower part of the front skirt I probably would have left in just pure white. Here on the legs, it looks pretty good as well too. I think maybe would have, for this knee part, just had this top part there in cream and this middle part just in white, probably, so it's limited to just like the smaller sections of these sections of armor. On the front of the shield, though, I mean, that's all right. With the shield being a kind of different thing, it's not like a normal piece of armor. it's kind of more, it's more understandable that it would have the multiple tones like that. Like the main chunks of armor, like on the actual body, the shoulder, the skirts, and things like that, it seems like the cream would makes more sense to be just the smaller sections. Well, let's see in here. I don't remember offhand, but I would also imagine that these little figures were included with the kit. So those look pretty cool. And I think when we saw the back photo here, you could see this kind of wires coming out the back of the head. And I'm not sure if those are also just added to, meant to look like it's just part of like the maintenance, or if that's actually part of his LED work that he did on this. But I don't think there's any added, or is there? Again, I'm not familiar enough with the base kit. I know that you can put an LED in it, or is there an LED that goes to the Vulcan pod as well too? One of you guys let me know in the chat. But is the wire coming out the back of the head for the LEDs? Because you can't see it in any of these other pictures when you're looking at the kit from the front, where you're meant to see this lit up. So when you're seeing it from the back, where you wouldn't see any of those, well, I guess this LED in the back of the head looks lit up, right? That one. So I'm not sure what's going on with those wires. Anyway, but some nice detail painting done here on the inner frame parts that are exposed. We got some little bits painted here and there. And those look pretty good. The decals all look fine. I'm not seeing anything really noteworthy with the decals. Those look good. Not silvering anything, and just the overall placement and spread of the decals, I think, looks like a good amount of those. Reybak. Am I reading that correctly? Reybak. What's the significance of that? I'm trying to think of what that would mean, or if I'm reading that wrong. The Japanese there on the back skirt. Here on the front, have these Camille Bidon ones, and I'm wondering if he custom printed those. So that's kind of interesting. If those were, and the kill markings there, if those are custom printed, or if that's actually just done by hand. It looks like it's a decal though. I mean, it could be done by hand, but it looks like it's maybe a decal that he had custom printed, or if some decals like this exist somewhere out there, that's also possible. I don't know it. But it does look pretty cool. Oh, okay. Here, Rayback Creations. There you go. That makes sense. So we know him as Mayo in the Discord, and that's how he asked me to refer to him. But I guess here is Rayback Creations there. So maybe that's another handle that he uses. I don't know. I've not seen him use that before. Let me see here. If there's anything more that I can find about that. Oh, he has a Facebook page with this and other works. So if you guys are interested, if you check out the Rayback Creations Facebook page, it looks like he's got that there. Okay. I think I remember him asking about custom decals webbacks. Oh, so okay, maybe this is what his custom decals were for. Gert said there in the chat. So all right, let's go ahead and check out his next build here, which is the higher resolution God Gundam. This one also maybe custom decals for this one as well too. The Neo Japan decals look like maybe he had those custom printed also. The Neo Japan here on the side of the leg is all right. I'm not really into this one here on the dong piece there. It's a bit odd of a placement for a decal. saying, especially with it being in such close proximity to the one right there on the thigh as well too. It's a bit odd. But let's see what else we got here. So this one, I'm not sure. Let's see. Obviously, doesn't look done because, oh well, are there more completed photos? It's obviously missing some parts of it. So I'd say this must be probably still a work in progress. And I'm not sure, again, how much is repainted or not, but I would imagine maybe it's all repainted. The metallic bits here, like this, I'm pretty sure, as far as I can remember, the original kit is not having these particular parts in that metallic color like that, this blue and red. Kind of interesting. Okay. I was going to say kind of interesting how it's two different colors, but no, I think these blue parts look like they're maybe not painted yet. And you can see the red shoulder over there looks like the original plastic, which is just like that bright, shiny, glossy red plastic. But this one over here on this side where it's kind of metallic looks like maybe those are the parts that are repainted so far with this metallic red here. It looks like. And yeah, the white, at least some of the white parts look like they're not painted as well too, like here on the head. This white shoulder part looks like it's repainted because it looks like it has a little bit of like rosiness to it. So maybe he used like some rose color in there for that. So yeah, it's kind of hard to tell. But anyway, it looks like still a work in progress. I don't know. Repainting the God Gundam, if that's the case, in these kind of metallic colors, certainly can fit. Again, just going back to my personal taste, not usually a fan of a lot of metallic colored stuff myself, but for this particular kit and this particular Gundam, I can understand that how that fits for that. So we'll have to see some more about this once it's completed. We'll take a look at that again. So yeah, these gold parts, I'm sure that's not the original gold, so those must have been repainted to that kind of very light gold color. All right, next here we have his master grade Zaku Phantom, Zaku Warrior kit here too. This one as well, just repainted with some metallic-y kind of colors. Looks like he tried some marble effect. Marble effect looks nice. That came out well. Let's see, some metallic silver, metallic blue here on the backpack. Metallic silver there. Once again, the decals for the most part look well applied and everything. So those look fine. The paint application also looks pretty good. It looks very smooth for this kind of candy coating kind of style paint. It's kind of here on the front. It looks like it's some kind of dusty or something like that, maybe. Which, you know, having a paint scheme like this super glossy candy coating, probably going to show dust very easily, unfortunately. So yeah, maybe you can get those brushes. What are they called? Like the brushes, like specifically for like dusting models and stuff like that. So I would recommend picking up one of those if you have any kits like this around that are not like enclosed in a case or something like that. And even if they are in a case, probably would be a good idea to have on hand. It looks like he replaced the inside of these vents too. I don't remember the vents having that mesh in there or not. One of you guys correct me if I'm wrong on that. Let me just actually, I'll just pull up some photos of the kit here for my own reference. Let's see. Yeah. Those front chest vents are different. So it looks like he replaced those with this mesh, which looks nice. Always a fan of that. That looks good. And like I said, the application of the marbling looks nice. And let's see if we go to the full photo. So it looks like basically he's got it like here on the side of the shield, and then here on the top of the head, and then here on this middle section there of the waist. So I think all the paint application looks pretty good and smooth. My only issue is the actual placement of the colors. So like the blue in here for the face looks a bit odd. And I've talked about this before, having like the head and the face part of kits being in different colors usually doesn't jive for me. And then also like the top of the hands being in silver rather than red looks a bit odd as well too, because normally we just see them in like the main color of the suit. Like the main color of the arms is usually the same color as the hand covers there. The shield being as it is, I think looks fine. So I'm just trying to think of if you were gonna do a mix of just regular kind of candy red and then some like marble red, what would be good placement for that? And I'm not sure. I think I maybe would have done this main part of the body, and I don't think it is. Or maybe it is as well too. This main part of the body all in marble as well too, and then the head just in regular candy red. Maybe the problem with this body part is that there's not a lot of like wide open surface, because you need like a big open surface to really be able to appreciate the marble effect. If you just have like all these little surfaces, it's not really as noticeable. But just because it's a darker red color. Also, it's missing the piping on the front of the face, isn't it? It normally has some piping there, doesn't it? So it looks a bit odd with this big kind of gap here between the blue and the red part, where normally the piping would go up in there, but now there's a gap. Looks a bit strange. I don't know. Yeah, I didn't really know. It didn't really notice it that much before, just because it's dark in there. But yeah, I think, like the metallic blue. Let's see, are the leg pipes? Those are also replaced too, aren't they? The leg pipes are replaced with this clear section, and these wires hanging off here, I'm assuming, are something that are also for some LED use or something that is maybe we're not seeing in use with this. So maybe those are meant to light up the mono eye or something, but not actually seeing that here. So I'm just going to just kind of ignore the wires out the back, because I assume they're for something that we're just not seeing in the pictures here. Maybe they light up the chest vents as well too. That'd be cool. But replacing the piping here on the legs is a bit odd with just that clear pipe. Not really too into that, just because it looks like it's just so different from everything else we've got going on here. So I can appreciate like the idea of wanting to do that, but I think unless you're going to do that on all the piping sections, like here on the face as well too, and then here around the waist section, you have to get different widths of that, and you have to be able to, bend and form that, reshape that to be able to fit to go around here and to go around here on the face. It'd be kind of a difficult process, but I think it could be done well, and it could look kind of cool on a kit like this, or any other kind of Zaku kit, or a kit that normally has like piping bits, like a Sazabi or something like that has this, a few bits of piping around it. It could look cool, but just being here on the legs and then having the piping here on the midsection being blue and the piping on the head being omitted, it looks a bit odd to be just like that by itself there. But I was gonna say, if that piping around the waist was blue, and the piping here on the legs was blue, and then the piping on the face was blue, but then the rest of the head was just red, I think that would have been probably preferable, in my personal opinion. Just having all those piping bits in blue, and then just having a little bit of blue detail on the backpack as well, would have been a nice use of that metallic blue. If you really liked the color and wanted to use it, and not necessarily forcing yourself to use it in areas like here on the face, where I don't think it matches quite as well with the color scheme overall. An anti-static brush. Yes, thank you, Arbs. Yes, that's what I mean. Anti-static brush is what you can get. I'm not sure if Tamiya makes one. A few different companies make them. Gun Primer makes one, I know. All right, let's take a look at his Ava here, which is the perfect grade. So this one as well too, I think we're seeing this as work in progress with doing some masking on that. So the perfect grade Ava was the first perfect grade ever, in case any of you guys don't know that. And so it's pretty widely known to be not the best kit out there, but if you wanted a really big Ava kit, you certainly can get it here. And so as well too, like the paint all looks pretty well applied, looks smooth. Shading on that looks nice as well too. This one as well too, I'm guessing he replaced that with some this mesh vent detail here on the back, which looks nice. I like that. I don't think those are metal detail parts. I think that's a metal parts, probably part of the kit, probably part of how you're meant to plug that in for the LED, because this one also has an LED gimmick, if I remember correctly. I'm guessing there was a lot of seam line removal work to do on this kit. Like here on the gun, you can see a little bit of that, like here on like this kind of back corner of that. I'm not gonna take too many points off for that. It's a back tiny inside corner of the gun, which I'm sure had a massive seam line all the way around it. So overall, it's not noticeable at all and looks pretty good. Like here on the back of the leg, I can assume probably there was a seam line here as well too. You can see a little bit of kind of remnant of that there. So maybe a tiny bit more cleanup on that, but yeah, it's hardly noticeable. Not that much at all. Yeah, aside from those two, I'm sure there was probably other seam lines on this kit that had to be taken care of as well too. But with that in mind, overall, there's the finish does look nice on this. You can tell it looks like maybe these little bits here on the knuckles were hand painted or something. The paint finish doesn't look quite as nice on those, or what? It looks like some kind of weird texture on that or something. Maybe these hands are maybe also in a softer plastic, and that's why they look kind of like you got some kind of weird bits on there that aren't super clean. Like if this is a softer plastic, it's harder to clean up. So that could also be the case on a kit like this. Oh, there's a seam line there on the top of the shoulder on that black part. But yeah, like I said, I'm sure there was a lot to do. A little bit of sanding here on this part too. So a little bit more would have been nice. How you can see there's the mold line going along the bottom edge of that, creates that sharp little line there where you're seeing that's where the plastic is not actually a nice sharp angle. It's got a little bit of a point right there on the leading edge of that. You can see that here on this part on the face too. There's mold line here, and then looks like probably wrapping around this section. If that's not two separate pieces here, it's kind of hard to tell. Probably two separate pieces there maybe, but if not, there's a mold line here on the front of the purple part as well too. So just one of those things you got to be careful to sand away. Make sure you sand away all those mold lines, because otherwise you can see that there very much more clearly once the paint is applied. A nice red eyes there, a nice little red scars there around the eyes. Looks cool. Sorry for the crazy zooming back and forth. And he went no decals on this, which decals on an Ava kit is kind of it's kind of a personal preference thing, because sometimes they look great and sometimes the Ava looks exactly how it's supposed to without any decals on it. So I kind of don't mind that it doesn't have any decals on it, but with it being such a large kit, I think a couple of little decals here and there could have been cool. This one as well too, I believe that's probably not a decal. Yeah, that looks like it's just molded into there, the nerve text there. So yeah, I mean, if it was me, I probably would have added a couple decals, but again, with Ava, as far as Ava kits go, yeah, you kind of just have to go with what looks best to you. Oh, see, I'm not sure with the tape on the leg. It's another photo of that. Got some more photos of this. So yeah, like I said, just the shading and everything on the purple parts does look nice. Yeah, seam line there on the top of the shoulder. That probably maybe, I don't know how the kit is constructed, but I can assume that these shoulder parts are kind of maybe hard to put on with removing that seam line, you'd have to modify some parts of that or something to be able to remove that seam line ahead of time. Yeah, the shading on the green parts looks really nice too as well. Looks cool. These parts on the front of the feet are normally green, aren't they? You change them to white. I believe they're normally green or orange. I don't remember. Maybe orange or green. And yeah, with this knee being like this knee part being off and the other knee being kind of wrapped in paint, wrapped in tape, I assumed in like the first photo it looked like maybe he was masking that to repaint this section of the knee or something like that, but I'm not sure what's going on with that. Excuse me a moment. Ooh, blow my nose. So, without knowing anything more about what's going on with the knees, I can't really comment too much more on that. I'm wondering a little bit if that's like meant to look like bandages or something like that. I don't think so. But I could see someone doing that, like wanting to recreate the Ava look like it's kind of like bandaged or something. Like I don't remember if we ever see it necessarily. Yeah, I guess you see that in like maybe like episode 2 or something. After the first fight, you see like the parts of the Ava like are being brought back with like the armor is broken off, like the part of the head or something like that, and it's like kind of partially bandaged, I think. Right? Am I remembering that correctly? This looks like it could be possibly trying to look like something like that, but I think probably not. Okay, let's look at this little petite guy here. This will be the last one, I think, of the ones they sent. I thought he meant to send maybe one more kit. So sorry, Mayo, if I'm missing one. You can always add it in next month, but this will be the last one, looks like, that I've got here for us at the moment today. This petite guy, and again, overall, the red looks nice. It looks like here up in the ears, the gold maybe is something a little bit wrong with the paint application there for that gold. Looks like maybe something happened with that. But as far as just maybe this was a test piece to test painting before he did the Zaku Warrior, possibly. I'm not sure, but the red and the silver look nice there on that. So for just a nice little simple petite guy, it looks pretty good. Yeah, there you go. Just a little bit of texture or something going on up there in the ears, but other than that, yeah. Other than that, some nice candy red on there. Tasty. All right. Thank you, Mayo, for the submissions, as always. Go ahead here and let me see. Actually, I'm dumb. He sent a bunch of text in his email as well too, which I should have referred to. Damn, sorry about that, guys. And sorry, Mayo. You put a bunch of text. Let me just go back and just kind of check this to see if there's anything that we missed about them. Talking about the Perfect Grade Gundam. So he said he did do some scribing, as I expected with that, detailing, giving the opportunity. Also, photo etch for arts, seam lines. Sorry, I forgot to read this email. Damn, there's a lot of information here about them that would have been good to refer to. Waterside decals, a mix of flaming snow, decals, and leftover decals from the shit. So it looks like maybe those waterside decals were not custom printed, but maybe it's a decal set for that. Okay. As for the high resolution God Gundam, it's a basic paint job with metallic red, pearl white, super metallic gold, burnt iron, blue, GX, all Mr. Hobby paints. Water slides are holographic decals from Delphi Decal for the God Gundam. No major modifications other than scribing some panel lines on the knee armor. That was too plain for me. Inner frame had to be disassembled. Okay. The Zaku Warrior kit here says a project that has been waiting quite a while to be finished. Painted and candy marble finish. We talked about that. The water slides are once again hybrid decals from Delphi Decal. The first attempt at installing LED lighting in a kit, and so the LED in the chest vents. Okay, behind the photo etch. Okay, so yeah, as I hoped and expected, he has LEDs behind those new chest vents. So the mesh detail that he added there, it looked like for the mono-eye and the leg and backpack thrusters. Okay, so that's maybe why there was a clear part there in the leg. There was also a seam line rule to do on this kit, but nothing crazy. Also broke the clear part for the head visor. Any advice on how to replace it would be nice. Replacing a clear part on a Zaku visor like that is kind of not a lot that you can do with that. You can get a kind of clear plot plate and just cut a small piece and just kind of bend it like that, I guess could work. The perfect grade Eva, he said the project was a complete mess, many breaking parts and cracking all over the kits, required a lot of fixing. The left shoulder pylon had to be modified in order to remove the seam line. And look at the angle to the right. Let's see. Painting was quite basic. I used exercise pre-shading on this. Hope it looks visible. And the rubber suit is unpainted. So the black rubber suit of the PG Eva was unpainted. If you guys are familiar with that aspect of the kit. Let's see. And then the Petit'gguy, he said, was his first painted Gunpla. So that's pretty cool. All right, there you go. So sorry, Mayo, that I missed reading that ahead of time. My bad. I need to remember to do that here for the remaining couple of entries. Going to be taking a look at. So this one is from Nim. Let's see. Let me put this up on the screen for you guys. Here we are. So as you can see, it's the Gym Semi-Striker. Or Gym Striker. The HG Gym Striker done. Yeah, right. I forgot. There's the Striker and the Semi-Striker. The HG Gym Striker done in the desert camo, modeled after World War II North African theater. Hand painted. I know there are brush marks. Played it off. The camo was slapped on last minute. You do some streaking. Also planning on putting a small desert diorama once I figure out how and what to do for sand dunes. All right. Excuse me. So he said he's wanting to include this into a diorama later on and also work a little bit on the weathering a little bit, pigment weathering and dry brushing. Or he said, need to do some, streaking, dry brushing, and a little pigment weathering. So he wants to work on the weathering some more and then also add this into a diorama later on. But as we're seeing this so far, you can see a little work in progress here. So yeah, as you mentioned, you can definitely see the brush marks of the camo there. One, and I'm not sure what type of paint he used for this. He didn't mention there. And let's see, Nim, are you there in the chat? If you're there, let us know what type of paint you used so I can check that out. But for hand painting camo like this, I mean, I'm sure you can do that with acrylic as well too. And basically what you want to do just to avoid the nub marks is just use just thinner paint, and then it takes more coats of paint. Let's see if we can peep the background of the images, if you can see any hints as to what paint was used. It looks like in this picture you can see there's a bottle of what I believe is ammo paint, or I don't think it's Vallejo. I think the yellow caps means it's a ammo paint, possibly, right? So anyway, I'm guessing these were hand painted with acrylic. In which case, yeah, you can thin those down and just painting them in thinner layers to avoid the brush strokes. Otherwise, if you're doing this with lacquer paints, you can do that with leveling thinner, mixing those with leveling thinner also to have less visible brush strokes. So that would be the best advice I can give you for that. Of course, it takes multiple coats. You know, it takes a while to build it up to have very rich colors like that. But you certainly can do that. So in this photo, it looks like he's started to work on some more of the weathering here, which I would say stop. No, but just that you don't want to go too overboard with the weathering. And so always when it comes to weathering, you know, start off at it doing very little, you know, and you can always, it's always easier to build it up rather than to take away, which is almost impossible to do without, you know, completely stripping the part and restarting from scratch. So with this little bit of kind of sponge chipping that's on there now, I would say it's a good point to just stop and then just kind of go at it very slowly and carefully from there, adding streaking. And you can go back and do some more sponge chipping in certain areas where if you want to. And I would probably recommend doing a little bit more in certain areas, but it's really easy to, and especially you see this a lot with people are kind of just starting, whether in weathering beginners, which I still very much am as well too. I should say I'm not very good or experienced in weathering, but just when it comes to weathering, yeah, you have to be careful to apply it, you know, very lightly at first to kind of build it up, and then also keep in mind where you're applying it to, so it's not just all over the place. That's a very common mistake that you see a lot of beginners make, just putting that all over everywhere. You need to be careful to apply it, and it looks like he is being overall being not careful, but just being thoughtful in where he's placing the weathering. You can see it's like, especially here on like the joints, like here on the front skirts. So far, I think he's probably doing okay with that. The placement of the weathering, just be careful not to go overboard with that, I would say. But yeah. I'm just kind of checking the chat here again too, just to make sure if he's here or not, but it doesn't look like he's here at the moment. So also just, I'm wondering, I mean, I guess it's just because of the paint theme that he was trying to recreate is maybe why he also painted like the hands and the joints, which are typically in, you know, gray or gunmetal or whatever. Why he also painted those in the same tan color. I would have just kept those, like the joint parts and the hands, the fingers, at least anyway, you know, like the inside of the hands. I would have kept those in like a gray or whatever kind of color and not gone for just like painting the entire thing, like head to toe, all in tan with the camo and all that, and the gun as well too. But again, I think with his, probably it's because of his inspiration of wanting to basically make it look like a tank armor, which, you know, in which case are usually entirely painted. As far as I know, again, I'm certainly no expert on the topic, so could be wrong. But if that's the inspiration, and then I can see maybe that's why he did that. Just saying. If it's me, I probably would have kept the joints and everything in gray. The visor also, I'm not really sure what's going on with this clear part. If that got sprayed with some top coat, with some matte coat, or it's kind of like painted over or something, it looks like. But definitely just one thing to keep in mind too, and this is the kind of thing that kind of, I think, happens to everyone somewhere along the way. You make this mistake once and then you're careful not to make it again, is where you spray your matte coat over clear parts. I've done it before. And I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate. You know, you do it once by accident and then you're careful not to ever do it again. You need to either remove the clear parts before you spray your matte coat, or you need to make sure those are masked and covered so you're not matte coating your clear parts, especially for like visors and mono eyes, any kind of clear camera parts, things like that. So something to be careful with. But yeah, I'd say building up the weathering a little bit, you know, slowly but surely, some filtering, Some streaking, very little bit of dry brushing. I wouldn't do too much dry brushing, depending on whether you really want it to look, but just a little bit of like filtering and streaking and stuff like that. Just kind of those effects, I think, will look nice on this. I wouldn't go, too much more with the actual like paint chipping effects and things like that. Dry brushing, I wouldn't do too much of that, really. But overall, I mean, the actual colors selected look nice, and I would assume these are probably like official colors of what were used by those World War II tanks. Probably these are, I'm sure those colors are available from ammo or whatever. My package is coming. I'm sorry, I got a text from the post office. My package is coming later this afternoon. That's good. All right. But yeah, the colors look fine. It's just, as you know, Neem, the paint application, when you're looking at it from a distance, you're not really noticing the brushstrokes as much. So it's only when you look at it up close. So, but it's something to work on. And then just the weathering, obviously, is something that obviously takes practice. So get better at that with time, experience. But yeah, just take it easy, take it light, build it up slowly. All right. Next, we're taking a look at Shaka's Hazel here. See, Shaka's here in the chat. So any questions, I'll refer to the chat there with Shaka being here. So this is painted Hazel. And we've got finished photos and also work in progress photos. So we'll take a look at just the finished photo here just to get a sense of it. And then I want to go through, I like looking at the work in progress photos first. So then you kind of know what to look for, what was done with it better in the finished photos. But obviously custom painted Hazel, which you don't really see a whole lot of, which I appreciate. Most of the time, most Advanced Zeta builds, you see them done in like their official Advanced Zeta colors because they just look so good in their official colors. But it is cool to see a custom painted one every so often as well too. And this looks nice. Of course, the painting application looks very nicely done. The stripes masking for those looks nice. Let's take a look here at the work in progress photos, and we'll take a look at some more of the finished photos. So for these vents in the front of the legs, looks like he kind of drilled and cut out those details and added some mesh here as well too. Is that also for adding LEDs in there? I don't think he added any LEDs. Shaka, you didn't add any LEDs in the legs, right? But I'm just wondering why cut out this part here in the white part of the leg. I mean, if you were just adding that mesh behind the yellow part, you'd really only need to cut this little bit out in the yellow part and then add that to the back like this. But cutting out this part of the white section there makes me think that you were planning on adding some LEDs in behind there. Oh yeah, he said nope, no LED. But so I'm wondering, so what was the point of cutting out that part? Something I'm missing, or you were possibly thinking about adding some LEDs in there. Do let us know in the chat there, Shaka. So that's the assembled look of that, and it definitely looks better. I mean, it looks good with that added in there. LEDs or no LEDs, I like the look of that. Here on the back of the shield, had to surely give some very. Oh, so he said, okay. So he just said that he just wanted to look more like a hole. So I guess if that white part was directly behind there, maybe you'd be seeing a little bit of the white through the mesh there a little bit possibly. So maybe that's why he just wanted to give us more depth, just to make sure that it looks very dark, I guess. So, okay, I can understand that. It makes sense. And yeah, here's masking on the inside of the shield part. That gray looks nice. I really like this color of gray, especially. That looks quite nice. What color is that, by the way, Shaka? It almost looks custom mixed, and it also looks a bit shaded as well too. Yes, there's a little bit of shading done with this. it would appear. Oh, and these are some custom details added in here as well too, aren't they? These kind of like half circle bits and like a little bit of plot plate detail, and these bits down here are like some details added onto the inside of this. I thought this photo was just showing off just the masking of this, but no, that's custom detail added on the inside of there, isn't that? There you go. Yeah, custom gray, as you said. Yeah, it looks like a custom mix of gray for that, and some shading too, right? Yes. I'm sensing some shading on that as well. Looks pretty nice. Here's the other shield, which is also masked for a 2-tone gray, 3-tone gray. It's a little bit darker gray up there at the top as well too. This one as well, there's no details added to that as far as I can tell, except for maybe this little bit here down at the bottom. That square bit might be added there, I think, maybe possibly. I added details in the shield to mask out the circles from the molds. Okay. So I think what he's talking about here is there was some like that mold detail. Not really detail. It's like a what's it called? From mold pins. What would you call it? It's not a defect. It's not a detail. You know what I mean. It's like a mold line, but a circle one from the pin. Anyway, yeah, if there was some of those here on the inside of this shield part, then use these added details to hide that, I think is what you're saying, right, Shaka? So that's one way to do it, certainly. Here's the painting process. And so I think this is maybe once everything's just painted and gloss coat there, it looks like. And then this is adding the decals. Corey, thank you. Injector pins, that's the word I was searching for. Or here we go, not that one, sorry. This one, Corey. Thank you. Injector pins. Yeah, that's what I was searching for. Yeah, just the mark from that, which you'll see. There are 4 or 6 of them, Shaka said, on the inside of there. The decals look good. Those look cool on there. The colors of them using white and red for the decals makes sense. Very logical. And yeah, looks nice. The one and this shield also looks pretty cool. It's very, very striking, being in red and black like that. If this was on the front, it'd be a little bit too striking for me, but because it's there on the back, I like it. It looks cool. So you're really only seeing the red outside of that. Is there a photograph here of the back side? Yeah. And even from the back, with that just being a lot of red, they're up on the back as it looks kind of like a separate thing, kind of like they're on his back, right? So I like that. If this was the shield that was on the arm, I'm not sure I would like that much red going on there, but with it being up separate on the back, I like that. So that color placement is cool. Let's just go back here, sorry, to this photograph. A nice photo here with this very dark lighting. You're really kind of seeing that red pop in this very dark photo. It looks very cool. I like that. In these more brightly lit photos here, take a look at this. Just a couple points of the color placement that I don't really like for me personally is here on the arm, the left and right side of the forearm being the 2 different gray colors there, and also the face. We talked about this before with the Gunner Zaku Warrior. I usually am not a fan of this on most kits. I have seen it done on the occasion where I did like it, but for me, just as a personal preference, I usually end up not liking the face being in a different color from the rest of the head. And I'm also just noticing that this is the HG, isn't it? I was thinking that this is the MG, and I don't know why. I guess that just goes to show people's often criticizing the MG, saying that it just looks like a big HG, and I guess there you go. I thought this was the MG. Seeing the fins on the V flags on the V-fin make me realize that this is in fact the HG. So, of course, usually you want to cut and sand those away. I don't know if maybe Shaka just made the, let's see here, Akira shield. Akira shield, yes, being in bright red, yes, that makes sense. Yeah, maybe if you made the choice to leave the flags there on the V-fin as like just passed off as just a detail of the design, I could see that being the case if that's how you wanted to play it off. And there's not really any way to do that in like an obvious way without just telling people like, oh, I left that there on purpose to be part of the design. But it does look like, okay, yeah, the V-fin, it's kind of hard to tell in the photos. The V-fin is actually not entirely red. So that, I think, it makes it more convincing that the flags were left there on purpose because the V-fin is in these two colors. So it looks like it's meant to look like kind of custom in a way of just like having that extra just bit of detail on the end there. So you can see the front of the V-fin is red, but the back side is actually gray, which is pretty cool. That's an interesting idea. I like that. It's not super apparent. It's only when you look at it, and like here you can see the back side of the V-fin is in gray there when you look at it from the back. So that's interesting. Also, I like the red for the thruster and verniers out here on the back. Except I'm just sad that the two verniers there in the center aren't also in red. They're not as noticeable being kind of hidden back up in there, but would have been nice if those were also in red, I think. Masking that tiny V-fin sucked. Yeah. He said, never even noticed that you left those on. Yes. Shaka, yes. Just kind of checking out. I needed thick V-fins to do two-tone. Yeah. All right, just checking the chat there to see what people are saying. But yeah, the multiple tones of gray, like here on the leg and everywhere, I do like that. I think it all looks nice, and especially now that I'm realizing that this is the HG, it is really nice. It's just there on the forum. It doesn't work for me. The two tones of left and right there on the forum. It's an interesting idea though, because normally we would think like that whole section of the forum would be one color and this front section would be in a different color. That's how we would normally do our Gunpla color separation like that. You kind of have typical ways of doing that, like here on the side of the leg, the top half is one color, the bottom half is one color. But to do it in that way is certainly unique, left and right. So that'd be just kind of a personal subjective preference if that's how you wanted to have your color scheme like that. Yeah, the red face, I don't know. I mean, it's such a nice color of red. I want to like it because, I mean, I like everywhere else. I'm not sure. Maybe Shaka, you can let us know what exact color of red that is. He said for the forum, he said it was to accept the fact that I won't get rid of the seam. So if you're gonna have a seam there, then you're just gonna play it off as or kind of kind of play into that by just having the different tones there. So fair enough. And he did thicken the seam to differentiate the panels. So fair enough. But yeah, the red color is a really nice color of red. Now, it looks almost like scarlet. I'm going to guess, but that maybe is not right from Gaia Notes. But Shaka, if you can remember, let us know what color that red is on there. A little bit of modification here to the beam rifle as well too. You can see there's a couple little bits added onto that to kind of give that some more detail and make that a little bit more substantial looking. So that's pretty cool. Those look pretty good. Just a couple little parts added on there. But yeah, overall, I mean, it looks nice as usual. Just a very nice, clean finish on that. And yeah, the stripes, the masking on that looks good as well too. There's a gnat flying around my face. Yeah. Sometimes if you guys have ever tried this kind of striped masking like that, sometimes you can get the kind of little edge of paint where you get a different thickness from where it's masked. Little edge along the side of the stripes there, but I'm not really seeing any of that as far as I can tell on the photos. So it looks good. Let me just go check back to the chat here. It's the dolls from Ghost in the Shell, the ones with the big red circles on their face. Yes, I do remember what you're talking about. Yeah, so I get what you mean. He said the red face was more because of Japanese kabuki masks, he said. So yeah, I follow you. Orange looks better in real life. He said it's Mr. Color 171. What is that? Color 171. Oh, fluorescent red. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, it kind of looks like Gaia Note's Scarlet, which is a really nice bright red and slightly orangish red kind of color. But obviously also if you want really bright colors like that, then fluorescent colors work really well as well too. Of course, the fluorescent red for that. It looks nice. Yeah, very cool. And like I said at the start, it's just cool to see a unique custom color scheme on a Hazel, which we don't often see in any sort of custom colors like that normally. So, excuse me. Oh, thank you, Shaka. Yeah, it looks a bit iridescent. Yeah. That's the thing with he was saying in the chat too that it looks different in real life compared to how it looks in the photos. So yeah, that's the thing with fluorescent colors, fluorescent paint, using them on your kits. It's hard to photograph them well to really get the same effect. They definitely look different in real life than however they're ever going to look in photography. So I feel your pain on that, Shaka. All right. Last one then here is going to be from William. And it's the very contentious RE100 Yakt Doga. Some people love it. Some people hate it. If you're the kind of person that likes to complain about RE100 kits, then you probably don't like it. But if you like the RE100 line in general, then you probably like this kit, because I like the RE100 line quite a lot. And I found this kit to, of course, have some weak points, yes, in general, but it was not that bad of a kit. I think it's a perfectly fine kit, and I really like this. It's such a huge kit as well, too. Very cool. I should paint this kit. It's so nice. But anyway, let's take a look at William's painted kit here. Let's see. Let's go back to his email as well too. Let's see. Here it is. So he said, here's his submission. It's RE100 Yakt Doga and custom colors with a bit of custom panel lines. The kit was airbrushed mostly with Tamiya acrylics and Mr. Color on the accent colors. So first of all, he said with a bit of custom panel lines. So let's find where are the custom panel lines, because they didn't jump out at me right away. Okay, looks like on the front skirts maybe. Yeah. You can see here's some panel lines that he added here on the front skirts there. It looks like those bits. So the fact they didn't jump out at me right away is probably a good thing. That means that they were done in a way that they look convincing and that they're not super obviously out of place or anything. But you can see them here on the forearm as well too, and then on the upper arm you can see there. So we'll go back. I have some more thoughts about those. We'll come back to that. But okay, no, that's all he said. about this. So let's see. William, are you here? I'm not sure. So let's see. Just overall, the color looks nice. The red is really bright. And I maybe would have gone with a little bit duller color for the red. Just because if you're going to have this like very dull gray, dull green, you have a very toned, like they're all very toned down colors. You want to have some like bright accents, but you don't necessarily need the red to be that bright in its color value. It's very, very bright. So I would have maybe added a couple of drops of white into that red, not so much that it starts to, like turn pink. But even then, I mean, it depends on how light you want to go with that. But I would have lightened up the red to make that a little bit more dull. Inside the thruster bells is not that noticeable, but even there, it's a little bit bright. So I would have lightened the red a little bit, but other than that, I like the colors. They all look pretty good. If you're adding more panel lines in here, I think it could have also masked and done some multiple tones of green here. Like you can see here on the leg, it's the only really place where it's very noticeable for me, at least anyway, is here on the leg where you have the two-tone green. Adding some more of that here on like the skirt and maybe the forearm a little bit. Maybe it would have been nice, but I don't know. Not super necessary for that, but just if you wanted to, if you were going to add the panel lines, you add a little bit more color separation there as well too, possibly. This kit doesn't normally have this square vent detail on the top of the torso there, I believe, right? That looks like that's an added detail part. If I remember correctly, it doesn't have that. Also, again, this is just a personal thing that I did with my Yakt Doga. I love this mobile suit and I love the design, but I don't like the stupid eyes on like the mask of it and have like the stupid bird eyes on it. So what I did with mine, if you guys remember way, way, way back, I puttied and sanded those over and just to get rid of that detail. And I think that would have looked nice on this with this being like a custom paint job as well too. And if you were not going to paint in the detail of those eyes there, just getting rid of that I think would have looked cool. I know it's kind of like can't do much about it now at this point, but just saying, for all of those of you guys out there, if you haven't seen my video where I did that many years ago, and if you are like me and don't like that detail of this particular mobile suit, that's something that you can do. Just slap some putty on there, sand it over, and just get rid of that detail entirely. Maybe a little bit more in the way of detail painting on this too, for like the barrels of the funnels, if those were painted in like a different gray or something. And like for like these little bolt details here on like the front of the chest, if those were in like a different color gray or like silver or something like that, just to help some of these little details pop. Again, not like here on like these little circle details on the front of the knee. Not necessarily something that, like these circle details here on the side of the arms, that you would necessarily like have to do. I think it would have looked nice. These circular vent parts here, like I was noticing the square vents added up onto the top of the body there. It looks like these circular vents are also added onto the side of the lower leg as well too. Which in terms of just like their general placement, I think they work well. The placement of them looks good, except for it's probably a flat piece. The backside of that circular part is flat, and then adding it onto a curved surface. So you can see it's not completely adhered to the part. So what you would have to do with that, and this is where a lot of times when you buy a file set of like 3 files or something like that, usually it'd be like a triangular one, a flat one, and like a flat round one, or there's a flat on one side and half round on the other side. That round one comes really in handy for stuff like this. This is where I've used that a few times. So use that round, like half round file to file the back side of this part which is just flat, to file that a little bit to just make it curved on the inside a little bit so that it will fit, better onto your curved surface you're placing it onto. If it's like a really drastic curved surface, then sometimes that's not going to work. In that case, you're probably better off just gluing it like this and then filling in that gap with some putty. And then, of course, something you have to do before everything's all painted. So different ways you can go about avoiding that, but that's just something that has to be done to not have this gap there when applying a flat piece onto a curved surface. The blue bits of detail, I think, look pretty nice for the tubing parts. I maybe would have not used that for this here on the gun, parts of the gun as well too. Again, just personally, I think for those piping bits on the actual mobile suit, having those all in blue looks fine. The missiles on the inside of the shield binders there, I would have done those in different color, not in blue necessarily. And then the details of the gun, I would maybe also not done in blue, but my personal preference on that. As far as the decals, the application of the decals all looks good. These photos aren't in the highest quality, so I can't tell super well. But as far as I can see, it looks like maybe a little bit of silvering on that one there, and maybe a little bit here and there. As far as like the placement, the only one that I really disagree with as far as placement goes, can you guys guess? I'm sure those of you guys who watch these or have heard me talk about kits in the past, you guys can probably guess which decal I'm going to mention as not particularly liking the placement of. I want to give you guys a second, because there's a little bit of lag between my talking and the chat there. So I want to give you guys, just for fun, let you guys see if someone's going to guess which decal I'm going to mention. Well, I'm waiting for you guys to answer that in the chat too. I'll also just mention about the Neo Zeon logo there on the shield being in gold is nice as well too. That looks pretty good. These decals, I'm wondering what about this decal set for this actually. Is this a like unofficial decal set for this, I'm guessing? Maybe that's why these are in red. But I was mentioning about this red being a little bit too bright in my opinion. But you have these decals, which are also very bright red as well too. So there's not really much you could have done about those. You can't like change the color of the decal. Let's see. Let's see what you guys' guesses are for the decal I was going to point out. Corey said on the chest, thrusters of the shoulders, the Xeon logo, the front skirt. Yeah, the skirt, the middle front skirt logo there for sure. Arbs. I didn't mean to put you up on the screen there, Arbs, but yes. Yeah. As many of you guys are guessing, actually, and someone just guessed this as well too. Who is that? The G Kito said the gun decal, the gun decals on the gun. Anyway, I didn't notice that actually until you mentioned that. But there's a Neo Zeon logo here on the gun as well too, and it's small, so it doesn't bother me that much, and I hadn't noticed it until you mentioned that. So I also usually don't like to put kind of affiliation logos on guns like that, weapons like that, usually, I should say. I think there could be times if it's like a big bazooka or something like that, maybe you put that on there, but usually I don't, because I find that those markings, just thinking realistically, are probably going to be like on the mobile suit, and the weapon is more of just like a piece of equipment, something not necessarily that would be marked in that way in my mind. But yes, the one that I was going to mention is just here on the front of the crotch, the Neo Zeon logo there. It just barely fits in the space and doesn't seem like a very logical place where that would be. I think that one probably should have gone here on like the center of the torso, or on like the front of the shoulder here. So like here on this top above the thruster bell there on the front of the shoulder. Because I also usually don't like these like affiliation logo markings on the front center of the chest, whether it be Xeon or EFSF Gundams on like the new Gundam or the RX-78 or something with the EFSF logo right in the front center of the top of the chest. I usually don't like that either. So usually like those to be, either off to one side or something, or here on like the front skirt would have been cool too. I don't know, maybe above this Yakt Doga logo here on like the front skirt or on the opposite side maybe, but just having this by itself on the other side maybe would have been kind of lonely as well too. So maybe not be above here, but no, I think maybe just in this case, maybe in the front center possibly, or like here on the shoulder, but just not really here on the front section. Like I said, aside from just the location of wherever you want to place that on the kit, symmetrical or not, centered or not, it's like just barely fitting onto there, which I usually tend to avoid for markings. Where you have like this one down here on the front skirt, the MSN03, how that just barely fits in the space, but in that case, it's text that looks like it's made at an angle, and then it looks like it's made to fit right in that space, where this one doesn't look like it's made to fit into that space. So if it's just barely fitting, it looks like it's like kind of being forced to fit there, and in that case usually doesn't look very good in my opinion. So that's really the only one that really stood out to me. The rest of the decal placement all looks fine, and like we were deducing here in the chat, I believe this is a third-party decal set for this. I'm not sure from which company or which decal set exactly, but the main things that I would say about this is that some more detail painting would have been nice. So like these piston kind of details here on the front of the forearm, inside of the shields as well too, aside from the other couple little bits that I mentioned earlier. So some more detail painting would have been nice, just to kind of bring out some more of the details, because that's a nice thing about these RE100 kits is that they are pretty nicely detailed, where they are lacking in some cases in stability and articulation. They make up for that quite a bit with having a lot of really nice detail on them. So definitely bringing all that out would be ideal. And then the minor adjustments to the colors of just, I wouldn't have used blue bits on the gun, and then on the missiles on the inside of the shield, and the red I would have toned down a little bit as well too. Other than that, it looks cool. I like that. Here on like the front toe bits as well too, I think these are originally red also, right? These little bits, but I kind of don't mind that those were changed to gray. Just maybe if they were a different color of gray, so you'd have multiple tones instead of just the foot all being all in that one color of gray, would have been nice. But yeah, there you have it. Thank you, William, and all the rest of you guys. Thank you once again. Arbs, Mayo, Neem, Shaka, and William. Thanks for your entries today for today's episode. So that was it. This was actually meant to be September's episode. I was meant to do this episode last Friday, so it would have been coming in right at the very end of September, but I had to delay just because of a lot of stuff going on last week, and it was the holiday, and like I said, my wife had her tonsils out, and we had family visiting here, my wife's family, of course. My family not able to come and visit from America at this point, unfortunately. But yeah, so we had to delay this, and now it's into the beginning of October. But we will have, so this is kind of like the September episode, basically. We'll have another episode later on towards the end of October, which will actually count as the October episode. So once again, just a reminder to you guys, if you are interested in submitting anything for the future episodes, just check out my Patreon page. There's all the details about that and other tiers, other things that are available for you guys there as well too. If you want to join our Discord, it's a really great community that we have there amongst some of the guys there on the chat who submitted works today, and some of the guys who didn't submit works today as well too are there in the chat, and they'll vouch for the Discord being a cool place for us sharing information and just helping out with questions and things like that as well too, and just kind of normal banter. The Discord's a cool place to hang out, and that's also just a Patreon reward as well too. So it's just Zaku Warrior on Patreon. If you're interested in supporting me, appreciate all of your guys' support there. And once again, a reminder too that tomorrow I'll be live again tomorrow morning with Josh for a new episode of Plama No Trend. So we'll be taking a look at some cool stuff on Twitter tomorrow, and that'll be it for live streaming this week. 3 days, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And then Thursday and Friday won't be any live streaming. I'll just be focusing on the Master Grade EX Unicorn. I did all of the priming on the Gundam last night, and it took a while. It's like 5 hours of just doing all the priming. And so I'm going to start doing on the painting today, probably finish the painting tomorrow, and then we start working on the base, the actual base and cage and everything's not even sanded or anything yet. So that needs to start working on that as well too. But just focusing on the mobile suit first. And it's off to a good start, but need to start working on the painting today. So that is it. And the Zoids kit we live built yesterday. I'll be working on the review for that as well too soon. So stay tuned for that. And until next time, guys, till tomorrow, have a good rest of the day or evening, wherever you are, and I'll see you later. Bye, guys.